from University de Rosario in Colombia. As we have done in previous panel, we would start with Yuri Takahashi to introduce the presentation. We will give each of us a few 10 minutes so you can share your presentation, we'll do your comments, and after that, we will leave time for some questions. So I would like to introduce you Yuri Takashagi. Maybe Yuri Takashagi has been the international advisor at the Shiba University of Commerce since 2019. She was the director of the Shiba University of Commerce International Center from 2011 to 2018. She joined the Faculty of Police Informatics as a professor of English in 2018, then moved to the Faculty of Global Studies, and it was established in 2015. She has been also the director of the International Center, and you have was instrumental in expanding international programs, forging new partnerships with overseas universities, and contributing to the globalization of Shiba University of Commerce. Maybe Takaki, please, we would like to listen to your presentation. Thank you.
Yuri, if you want, you can start your presentation now. Thank you very much. Yes, we can hear you now.
Right, okay. I am Yuri Takahashi. I'm from the Chiba University of Commerce in Japan. We are right next to Tokyo. So, and our university is very keen on many international exchange activities, but under the coronavirus pandemic, of course, all our international activities had to come to a halt. We could not send any students out. We could not welcome any students to our campus. And there is one activity I would like to share with you today, which is how we are overcoming this situation, because we wanted to continue our international activities even under the corona situation. So what we in normal times, what we had was what we called International Square, and this was a place where our students can come and speak in English or have other language exchange activities anytime during the day. It's open from 10 to 5 every day. And this is not like a classroom. It's a place where students can practice their language without feeling the pressure. It's not like a classroom. Now, this also had to go virtual. So we did have English-speaking staff on hand always, so students could come in anytime, and we would have different activities like free conversation or playing language games and so on. But one thing that we could not do in the real International Square, but which we were able to do in the virtual, was enlist the help of students in our partner universities, for example, in this case, Australia, and they would come in to the virtual International Square and have conversation with our students, Japanese students. Now, this is something that in the real I-Square we could not do. We could not get these students from Australia to come in on a regular basis, for example, because of course, they are so far away and our academic calendars are so different and so on. But it's because we are now online and virtual that we could enlist the help of these students and to be partners in the conversation with our students. So that is one merit of the virtual International Square, which we hope that even when we can eventually have the real International Square, we will also continue with this virtual as well, because we can see the merit of being our university students from our partner universities being able to speak with our students. This is something that we were not able to do before, and only it's made possible because it's virtual. So that's one thing that we have been able to do in this situation, and hopefully we'll be able to continue to do even after the pandemic. Also, we have our students have joined many online courses offered by other universities, and many of our international students who are not physically able to come to our campus are joining the online classes. So, of course, it's very limited and not as much as our real classes, but we are trying, and hopefully, you know, there's some merits or pluses of the virtual system we are trying. And so that's the experience that I wanted to share with you, first of all, that there's some merits to the virtual in that you can, and get, well, it's just like this talk that we're having today. I mean, I am here and people are in different places, but here we are sharing our experience, and maybe we would not have been able to come physically to Mexico, although it would have been lovely, but still, in some ways, we just crossed this physical barrier and geographical and time difference and all that. Maybe in some ways this is making it possible. So I think we are finding new ways and exploring these possibilities that we probably wouldn't have, maybe, if it hadn't been for the pandemic. So this is what we are finding. We are finding that, as we gave you the example of Australian students joining us, but also some students from the United States, you will be also joining our virtual International Square and talking with our students. So, and these would not, even after the pandemic, I think we want to continue this, because we wouldn't be able to have these students come to our campus. It's just not realistic, just for that kind of activity. And they're completely voluntary. They're volunteer students volunteering their time. And because they want to have this international experience, and they're also interested in Japanese culture, making a friend in Japan. But of course, eventually they hope to come to Japan in person. And that would be, of course, lovely. But in the meantime, having this way of sharing online is working very much for us. So that's our experience from CUC in Japan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Akaki, for your experience of the virtual exchange program. I would like now to introduce you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
No, not at all.
Yes, I can you hear me now?
Better.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Yumi Takahashi from the National, from the Chiba University of Poland. I would like now to introduce you to Dr. Stefan Weyers. He's a professor at the Fachhochschule Dortmund in Germany, and his main academic tasks and interests are statistics, operation, Lean Six Sigma. He is also the project director of ARA project in Greece, and he has a PhD in mathematics. Stefan, would you like to share your presentation, please?
Sorry, I hope you can hear me now. After sharing the screen, I wasn't sure how to unmute myself. So please let me know if you can't understand me. Yeah, many thanks for the invitation to this panel and the opportunity to present here about what we do. Great pleasure for me to be here. So what I'd like to share with you is, first of all, if possible, first I want to talk very briefly about the Indu Twin project, where I'm the manager of, just because we are so proud of our collaborations to universities like Guanajuato, for instance. And then I would want to give you some examples of where I experience virtual and blended mobility, and then conclude with some hypotheses, statements for the discussion, if you want. So, IndoTwin is a project between partner universities in Mexico, as you see, other Latin American countries, China and Germany, Fachhochschule Dortmund. It's about bachelor study programs. This is something relatively new or not so common in internationalization. And yeah, as pilot study programs, we have mechanical engineering, computer science, and international business management. The last is not new at all. There is already a double degree agreement between Guanajuato and Dortmund, but we want to expand, we want to establish new ones in other departments and with other universities. That's one goal, these double degree agreements. The strong focus should be on industrial application, meaning we want to cooperate with companies. We want to offer students not only the opportunity to study abroad, but also to do an internship abroad, to maybe write the bachelor thesis within a company, these kind of things. Yeah, and one, as you see here, two of the goals are mobility, to foster mobility, and also to enlarge digital learning. So if you combine both, you are somehow at the topic today, virtual mobility. Now, if I give you some examples now, just selectively based on my own experience, not exhaustive at all, then what first comes to my mind if I think about virtual mobility, especially about blended virtual mobility, are these massive open online courses that are offered on platforms like edX or Coursera or Khan University, Udacity, and a lot more. You probably heard of them. Here you see a selection of programs that are especially relevant for me as a teacher, or as things that I'm interested in. And I even did a lot of those programs by myself, because this is it was so much fun, it was so motivating. So I'm a huge fan of those programs. You get access to top universities without having to fly over to them. You see those like top researchers in their fields, these charismatic teachers, and this all at a very high quality with a lot of applications, but at low or even no cost. So it's free. Usually all the materials are free. Only if you want to get a certificate afterwards, you have to pay for this. So it's 24/7 available. Really great. To foster continuous learning, what they do is usually what I especially like is that if you do assignments, you get an immediate feedback. Is your answer wrong or is it right? And you have this like progress bar, which is quite motivating for me, at least. You also have some interactive elements like discussion forums, peer reviews, and you have these proctored exams where you basically make these certificates more like formal, more valuable with this kind of stuff. So I'm very enthusiastic about this, and it's really virtual mobility, I would say. As I said, you get access to these top universities. You have a glimpse under the hood. You get a feeling how, what kind of level do they expect? What is it to hear a lesson at Harvard? And you also, like, with limits, you also are able to meet other students, like in these discussion forums and during this peer reviews. So even open-ended questions are possible. So that is one thing that comes to my mind. The second example is our summer schools. And as Yuri described, in this project, we wanted to do summer schools, winter schools, but due to the situation, traveling was not possible. So we also did this online, we did this virtually. And this happened in June, July this year. We offered a course in Lean Six Sigma. And as you can see here, we had 17 participants and the group was very diverse. So we had 4 universities from Latin America participating, 1 person from Guanajuato, as you can see here, even 1 from Kiev. So very international group. And it worked that way that that there was a preparation phase. So I sent out welcome emails to everybody, asking about what they expect from the course, what their pre-knowledge is, and so on. I gave them access to our Elias platform, that is kind of the Moodle that we use, or the analogon. I also gave them chapters in EDX that they should look at beforehand, and also tried to send out materials by post, so like physical real post letters with some materials for this case study that worked not that well during the pandemic. So for instance, all the Peruvian letters came back to me. That was just not possible to send. During this week, this Monday to Friday, I gave lectures from 4 to 9 p.m. German time. So my afternoon, Latin America morning. Of course, I presented a lot, or a bit at least. But we also try to make it interactive. So using polls, but especially using this breakout room functionality in Zoom. I was very excited about that. So that, I don't know if you're not familiar with it, that means you will, with 2 or 3 mouse clicks, you can split your whole group into groups of 2 or 3 or 3 or 4 people. and then just within seconds randomly you generate groups, and then they get out of your sight as a teacher and they work on an exercise, and then they come back and present it. And this is one thing you mentioned. There are things that are possible now with virtual mobility, and this is one thing. So to split the group in a real classroom is a very exhaustive task, but so virtually that is quite easy. And also I did a case study, so they had to organize themselves in between the lessons. They worked in fixed teams and spent 2 or 3 additional hours per day. So let me read off some quotes from students about this course so that you get an impression. So this is now quotes from students. Level of learning is high. The teamwork has been an incredible experience. Working with people from all over the world makes fun. I really like the course. The topics are very interesting. Teamwork is an opportunity to learn how to work under pressure. Interesting and helpful. Teamwork is challenging due to time differences, but we could manage it. The highlight for me is the student project, as it helps to daily apply the concepts of the sessions, and it allows you to exchange opinions and perspectives with your teamwork partners. It's not that I get, and there were more comments like these, and also for me, it was basically a blast. I mean, it was really a great course also for myself. And that shows that you can have like great team experiences also virtually. Yeah, and trust me, I don't get those kind of comments like all the time in my courses, not at all. So it seems it does not really depend on virtually or physically. It depends on like the setting itself. And there will be a winter school in Dortmund in November, virtually again. So if you're interested in this, please reach out to your coordinators, your international office on this. The third example would be not to use block formats like the summer school, but to use regular courses throughout the semester, and that's what we plan in summer term 2021 in Dortmund. So this will be bachelor courses, regular courses from April to June, so every week. In English, of course, we try to do it in afternoon hours, German time, to make it available for Latin American students. And so at the moment we plan these 2 courses that you see here: data science, machine learning, at the Department for Business Studies. So I will do that, but also other students from other faculties are welcome. And there will be self-learning courses, so these EDX courses that I mentioned earlier, as a self-learning, but also project-based international teams. And the second course that we want to offer is quantum computing, and the idea here is really that we get a lecturer from Latin America doing this for us. That's kind of the idea. I have to mention that this idea of having these regular virtual courses is from Eva Konrad. So I have to give credits to her. And so basically we stole it, and we now plan to realize it as well in Dortmund. So it didn't happen, but it's a plan. So these are 3 examples, and since this is a panel discussion, I want to give some things that might be too discussable. I don't know. From my perspective, virtual mobility is, compared to physical mobility, definitely more sustainable in terms of climate friendliness. You don't have to fly. In some extent, it's comparable to in-class experiences as in physical environments, like this teamwork that I presented. But of course, it can't replace the overall experience that you have as an exchange student. That's for me pretty clear. So it's not a one or the other, but thanks. But it's a it should be combined. Okay, but my proposal would be to do more of those virtual classes, open up the courses in different universities to other students, to make it really possible to join courses in other universities. That would be my proposal. But as I know, I probably made it too long, so let me conclude here. Thanks for listening.
Thanks very much, Stefan. I would like to say that we've been having technical problems with the microphone of the moderator. So from now on, Eric Sanchez will help us with this part. And well, just for you to know that. Now we will continue with Nicole.
Okay, thank you, Daniela. Thank you, Stefan. Great presentation. Thank you for your presentation. I'm going to introduce Professor Nicole Tami from the University of New Mexico. Nicole Tami is the Executive Director of Global Education Initiatives at the University of New Mexico. She's one of the oldest, the university is the oldest Hispanic serving institutions in the country. She holds a doctorate in cultural anthropology from the University of Illinois with a regional expertise in the East Africa. In March 2019, she participated in the Fulbright Nehru International Education Administrators Programs to India. Nicole collaborates actively with partners both on off-campus to promote global education initiatives for students, faculty, and staff. She's been an active member of the EIEA and EIEE and speaks 4 languages, including Swiss, German, her mother tongue. Thank you for your participation, Professor Nicole. Go ahead, please. I pass the floor.
Thank you very much, and good morning. Thank you for that kind introduction. So I'm going to be talking with you a little bit today about the importance of accessibility when it comes to virtual learning and how accessibility is a key to fostering global community. Next slide, please. I'd like to talk about a project that we had the opportunity to be a part of. During July 2020, the University of New Mexico was poised to offer the 6th iteration of our Community Identity and Leadership Institute, which was a 4-week intensive program funded by the U.S. Embassy in Mexico to focus on youth from indigenous backgrounds and bringing them to Albuquerque, New Mexico to immerse them within the campus environment and to also connect them to leaders within the city, within the Pueblo community, which is our Native American community, and the state. Of course, the global pandemic hit and we were forced to rethink things. It became quickly apparent that we wouldn't be able to offer the 6th year of this program, which was really unfortunate for us. So we reached out to the U.S. Embassy and our contacts there to see what kind of alternate programming we could offer. And we started to think about virtual learning fairly quickly, and also the idea of partnering with other organizations and institutions around the country in the US, but also in Mexico that had offered similar programs. And you can see there on the screen all of the folks that we worked with. So we started to brainstorm some potential options for how to deliver a program. And it quickly became apparent that this might be an opportunity to reach out to former participants rather than to initiate a new call and bring new students into a virtual learning environment that had never had the opportunity to go abroad. So in conversation with the US Embassy and eventually with the partners listed on the screen, we came to the decision that to offer a program that would allow for continued professional development and networking among all of the people who had participated. So basically alum from this 5 years of the programs that attended different programs that were all geared towards either indigenous youth or youth of Afro descent in Mexico. And so that's the route that we took, is we decided to come up with a virtual program, week-long program. And next slide, please, so we can see a little something about the structure of the program. A program that would allow all of the partner institutions to contribute and present a session each day. Each institution that participated was responsible for their own content. The University of New Mexico took over the administration of the program. And we had a hybrid model in the sense that we had live programming, so 2 hours of synchronous programming, which was recorded, by the way, and accessible to students, in part because we knew that connectivity would be an issue for some of the students, and because we wanted to allow them opportunity to review those conversations later in the day. But there were 2 hours of live sessions. The entire program was offered in Spanish. The students had opportunities to break into groups, which we organized on our end, and meet with a group facilitator, which was an advanced student that would review, summarize, initiate conversation, and just facilitate the general offline learning, or offline, I should say, outside of the larger group and the smaller groups. And I want to share a few demographics of the program. As you can see below, we ended up having 120 participants, fairly evenly distributed, but some more women than we had male participants. There were 19 states represented throughout Mexico, and participants from 4 additional countries, as you can see: Ecuador, Bolivia, El Salvador, and Guatemala. And in the end, for students whose attendance was at least 85% and who participated in the teamwork, they were given a completion certificate at the end of the program, of the week-long program. So all of the institutions, including the University of New Mexico, had a long-term goal of continuing professionalization and outreach and interaction with the participants from prior programs. So this was a great opportunity to initiate this in a really meaningful way. Next slide, please. Just a quick overview of myself and the team that we worked with. It really was a group effort. And it was really Danielle Gillum, Valerie Cardenas, and Daniela Collazos who were doing a lot of the heavy lifting, especially in terms of tech support. And leading up to, we had multiple meetings leading up to the actual program with the other partners, discussing parameters, discussing who would handle what pieces. And so UNM was able to take a managerial lead in facilitating the technical aspects and doing troubleshooting before, during, and after the actual program itself. Next slide, please. I want to talk a little bit now, get into the details of the importance of the actual connectivity when it comes to virtual programming. So one of the things we did early on, because we realized that many of the students we work with and that have attended our programs in the past live in rural areas where internet access is not necessarily always constant or predictable. We had students who had very high speed access, and then students who would be accessing the program via telephone, mobile device, and maybe having to rely on bandwidth. So the first thing that we really did was to survey the attendees, who had signed up for the program prior to the program, to get a sense of how they would be connecting and what kind of software and platforms they were familiar with. We also did some general research on the coverage area and the various areas that the students lived, and we were really trying to match the content with the bandwidth and connectivity that the students would be able to access. So, for example, not streaming any, offering any videos that can be really difficult to stream in real time because they require a high internet speed or a lot of bandwidth. Next slide. Our office did a lot of work in vetting different technologies, and you can see from the information on the slide, and some of the graphics here to your right, that it's important to understand what different technologies do, what your participants are familiar with, how easy the platform and technology are to use, and to make sure that not just your participants, but those who are delivering the content feel comfortable with the platforms and technology that you're going to be using. So part of it is understanding what kind of technological support you need to offer, which platforms are most accessible in terms of content, in terms of cost, in terms of familiarity, and also what the different platforms can do, because there are pros and cons to all of the different platforms, and some of these are quite common: the Skype, the Hangout, Zoom. The Hangouts, of course, is Google Hangout. So if you all are, I suspect that most of you watching have tried in various forms and iterations most of these platforms, and you'll understand that they have aspects that are user-friendly, or when you're moving from Skype to Zoom to Teams, you notice little differences among the platforms that either make it easier or more difficult for you to navigate. So those are the kinds of things that we were keenly aware of as we started to plan our program. Next slide, please. As you're planning the program, it's really important to understand the difference between your instructional needs and how you wish to interact with the participants. What the learning management system is, which is just software that allows you to deploy and track online learning. It's a way to store and track information as you're working through a program or a course. And then, of course, storage. And there are certain software that do a number of these in combination, or in certain cases, you need to use multiple platforms or different softwares to be able to handle all of the goals that you have for the training or for the course. Next slide, please. So there's a few things you can do in order to set yourself up for success when you're working virtually. And we are learning, part of the reason that we thought this would be an interesting presentation is because you learn as you go. Unless you have been doing online learning for a significant period of time, and that's usually a single part of an institution or of a company that offers the online training. And with the pandemic, we've all had to become experts and fluid and flexible in using online technologies in ways that we haven't before. So remember to be aware of what your students are familiar with. If you're going to introduce new technologies, how are you doing that? Are you prepping them before the actual program so that they feel comfortable and fluid with the technology that you're using? Are you offering support, frequently asked questions, and assistance in real time? We recommend that if you're doing that, and I think it's helpful if you do, that it not be the instructor or the presenter of the course, because you want them to focus on what they're actually delivering and not be troubleshooting. So we had live support during each of the sessions, during which both the students and, if need be, the presenters could access support. We also recommend practicing the sessions and connectivity with instructors prior to the actual program starting, so that you can work out glitches and make sure that they're comfortable with the software and technology, and also give the participants some time to play with the technology and do some tutorials. Those are all things that you can make available for them prior to the program. Next slide, please. Here's just a quick image of, there's actually about 4 or 5 other screens, given how large the participant list was, but you can see a number of our students. You can see Mr. Vidal Romero, who was one of our collaborators from UDLAP, Ms. Valerie Cardenas, who is our coordinator in Mexico City, and of course, Ms. Araceli Portarroyo from the U.S. Embassy. So we had a lot of folks involved. We even had a short welcome and cameo appearance by the new U.S. Ambassador to Mexico, which was wonderful. Next slide, please. And here we just have an image of some of the information and links and files that we made available to our students. We posted agendas, reading materials, program calendars that had key events and deadlines. We also posted the recordings of our Zoom sessions for students who wanted to review them later or may have had connectivity issues and were unable to access them in real time. And so we wanted to allow an opportunity for asynchronous learning, particularly because we knew that we were dealing with students who had varying access to technology and to reliable internet. Next slide, please. I've already spoken about this a little bit, but the importance of making sure you're familiar with the tools, that you allow that your students become familiar with the tools, and that you know how to handle all of these fun aspects of virtual learning. My colleague Stefan talked a little bit about the ease of being able to break out groups and do virtual testing polls and things, live streaming technologies. That's all really cool when it works. It's really frustrating when it doesn't. So it's really important to just make sure that you have a technical support person who's facilitating these kinds of movements and sort of add-ons within the virtual learning environment. And again, we recommend that that not be the instructor necessarily, because he or she should be focused on delivering content. And depending on the comfort level of the instructor, you may have folks who want to play with different technologies or need to be introduced to those technologies in order to use them comfortably. So on the last slide, please, we just want to talk about a few things that we learned through the process. First and foremost, it's really important to be flexible and not to be afraid to try something new. Technology is wonderful when it works, and it can be a real headache when it doesn't. So it's important to make sure that you understand, as the institution who may be delivering the content, what the breadth and limitations are of the technology that you're using. And so be intentional about which technology that you use. And always keep in mind the participants who are going to be accessing the technology. So, you know, what might work in one particular context, you know, with the level of bandwidth and modalities that you have in one area may not be the same in terms of where you're actually delivering the content and the folks who are going to have to absorb that information. Expect to make modifications on the fly. Technology glitches will happen, so it's always good to have a backup plan. And to make sure that the content and information that you want to share is accessible elsewhere through some sort of file storage system so that students can access it later if need be. Hosting real-time virtual office hours for troubleshooting is critical. And once you've completed a course session, what we did at the end of each day is try to debrief and figure out what went right, what went wrong, what adjustments needed to be made. And in the end, I think what was most fulfilling and motivating about this project is we got to work with partners that we had not been able to work with in real time. So we had made individual connections, of course, with UDLAP or with University of Arizona, but to bring together these 5 institutions who all over 5 years had offered their own version of programming funded by the embassy, and then being able to do that collaboratively and have conversations as we developed the program, as we delivered the program, and afterwards, because the students are actually, in fact, still working. They're coming up with executive summaries that will be combined into one, executive summary. They're all presenting information that will be combined into one single document that will be presented to lawmakers and other decision makers about the information that they shared and generated. And so we're hoping that this is just the start of a collaboration that will continue as the pandemic progresses, and we're hopefully able to start to meet again in person and travel internationally. Much as Stefan was saying, we believe that this kind of virtual collaboration will continue and has opportunities to enrich in-person learning and collaborations, because it just brings the number of people can bring together from all different parts of Mexico in the case of this program, but also from the US, and has just really sort of amplified the impact that we had for these students. And so the plan is to also offer a program for new cohorts of students. That would be the next step, but certainly to continue to offer training and opportunities for students to connect, network, and share their professional ideas and projects as cohorts of students who finish the program, because they are now experts in their own fields. Many of them have completed degrees, have gone on to assume professional positions or move into graduate studies. And so they're also in a position to start contributing to the knowledge building. And so this was a great opportunity for us to do that. So I just want to thank again the UNM team who made this possible, as well as the US Embassy and all of our collaborators on both sides of the border. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Dani. Very interesting and very specific about the experience of the University of New Mexico. Thank you for your contribution. It is now time to pass the floor to Professor Luisa Godoy from Universidad del Rosario. Professor Godoy is Vice President for International Affairs, Universidad del Rosario. She has a Bachelor in International Relations from the Universidad del Rosario with a master's degree in analysis of political and economic and international situations from the Universidad Externado Colombia. More than 11 years of professional experience in areas related to the internationalization of higher education. She's former Associate Dean of International Affairs at the Prime Business School of Universidad Sergio Arboleda and Coordinator of Internationalization at the School of Administration of Universidad del Rosario. Please go ahead, Professor Godoy. Thank you.
Well, good morning, and thank you, Eric. I would also like to thank Universidad de Guanajuato for inviting me to participate in this international forum and expo, and to the organizers. And I would like to say hello to the other colleague panelists, Stefan, Nicole, and Yuri. So today I would like to share with you the experience of our university in establishing a project for virtual mobility in our university. So first, a short information of our university. We are located in Bogotá, in Colombia. We are one of the oldest universities in the country. We were founded in 1653. We have around 13,000 students, 12,000 in undergraduate and 1,000 in graduate programs. Some information of our accreditations at an institutional level: EQUA accreditation, European accreditation. We have 5 campuses and 9 academic unit schools. Okay, so I don't want to get deep in this slide. I just wanted to share that at the beginning, we had planned to establish a virtual exchange project as a part of the university's strategic planning for 2025. Internationalization is one of the 6 main goals of the university in this strategic planning. And we plan to establish this virtual exchange project, trying to have different approaches. Like the first one is we wanted to find new ways on how to transmit intercultural competences to our students. We also wanted to have an important approach to virtuality in the university through this planning. And finally, we wanted to have an approach to inclusion, how to facilitate access of students to international activities when not necessarily they have the chance to have physical mobility or going abroad to another country physically. So we had this in mind, but it was planned in 2 or 3 years. But then the pandemics arrived, and then we said, okay, the same as, for example, Judy mentioned, we had to cancel our mobility for this semester, the second semester of 2020. So we said, we need to do something to guarantee our students that they can have still can have an international experience even though they can't fly to other countries. So we said, okay, let's work on this virtual mobility project, and we had to build all this project in a very short time, like 3 or 4 months. It was very interesting, very challenging, but we were able to do it, and this is what I want to show you today. So first thing to say, this project was very important for us because we discovered that for having it or for developing it, we would need the participation of different areas in the university, not only the Vice President for International Affairs. So this was a very transversal, I don't know if it's the correct word, work in which other areas of the university participate and contributed to the success of this project. So for example, we had the Vice Provost for Student Affairs participating to take care of all the support programs for students, even though they weren't coming physically. We had the Office of Digital Education and Learning Tools because this is virtual education. This is virtual courses we were going to deal with. So we needed the support of this office for doing it successfully. The Office of Registration and Records, how we were going to put these courses in the records of the students. The Vice Provost for Academic Affairs in how we were going to guarantee the academic rigorosity of the program. The Director of Financial Planning, because as I will tell later, our students have a financial benefit for having this kind of international mobility. So how we were going to take it or make it real with this different way of mobility, different from the one we had always had that is physical. Okay, and the academic units, because they are like the principal characters in this project. So we said, okay, we are going to do it. We have all the actors of this project. So, but how can we do it? What is it? What is a virtual exchange program? So we were looking for some information about it, and we also even participated in some seminars. We found some universities, Purdue, SUNY University in the US, have interesting programs related to virtual exchange. And also we find this Evolve project from the Erasmus program that we based mostly on this, like the philosophical structure of the program. And mainly what it focuses in how it describes the virtual exchange is a way in which two people or group of people who normally are separated geographically can get together enabled with a virtual tool and have an intercultural experience, a learning and intercultural experience that can allow them to, as I said before, build these intercultural competencies and skills that we are looking to develop in our students. So it is an important way or tool for internationalizing the curriculum. It is intended to offer meaningful intercultural experiences to students. It is some of the activities are built in a collaborative way. And as I said, it is enabled and fostered by ICT tools. So we developed 3 actions for our virtual exchange project: global classrooms, e-certificates, and e-mobility. I will deepen in this. The global classrooms are the activities that are based on the COIL, Collaborative Online International Learning Methodology. The COIL methodology is well known internationally. It's not new, and we've been using it for a couple of years. We even have some experiences with international universities. but we wanted to highlight it and to give strengthen it more and make it more visible internationally, so other universities could enroll and participate and have these COIL exercises with us. We are planning to have around 15 exercises in this semester, so it has been very important to include it in this project. We also have the e-certificates. So these are a group of credit earning subjects that students who come to our university take during a semester. And at the end, they take a certificate based on the subject or area selected. These are all virtual courses, as I said, but we also included a component of MOOCs and some virtual short courses that we offered at our university. So it could be more interesting for students to have this different approach to virtuality. We have around 22 e-certificates right now in different topics and in different languages. So as I said, international students take a virtual certificate at our university. They take a group of courses, normally 15 Colombian credits. And at the end, they get a certificate of our university in the topic of the certificate. These are our certificates. This is like the structure of one of our certificates, in this case, in entrepreneurship. As I said, we have optional courses that are MOOCs and learning for fun, which are the short courses I mentioned before. And finally, we have the third action, that is e-mobility, that are free courses that students can take at our university, 1, 2, or 3 courses in the semester, and they would be validated at their home institution. The same, our students can take courses at our partner universities, and they can be validated at Universidad del Rosario. We have some courses that are virtual, fully virtual, and they can be offered at our virtual platforms of the university. But also, because of the pandemics, all of our courses in the university were turned into virtual. We call them remote students. It's synchronous. They take classes together in the Zoom platform and interact with other students and with the professors. These two kind of courses were offered as part of the e-mobility offering of the university. So now we have this offering, the certificates, the COIL, and the free courses. So what can we do now? How can we get alliances with other universities to share? So we share them our courses, and they share us our courses. So we had to let this exercise with more than 330 universities abroad, our partner universities, to let them know about this project. We had around 59 Zoom exercises, like sharing this experience and inviting them to participate and send us their courses, because we had our courses, but we didn't have an offering for our students, so they could do these virtual courses. We received at the end more than 600 courses from our partners, virtual courses that we could offer to our students. These are some of the partner universities we worked with in this virtual exchange program. Some, I won't mention this very deeply, but it's how we had a mentoring program for international students who would participate in the virtual exchange program, even though they were not coming physically, because we know that even though it is virtual, we have different ways of teaching, and sometimes it is more difficult for students to understand how we do it in our country, and also to have an approach to our culture that it won't be as easy as if they could come physically. So as I said, some aspects from our course, so from our virtual exchange program, credit earning at Universidad del Rosario, we have student mentoring services. We have a 20%, this is for our students. Normally we offer them an 80% discount in the fee paying for them. So this time, for as it is virtual, we still are offering a 20% discount in the cost of the credit they take virtually, like as a way to invite them to take these courses and participate in this experience. We built a network of universities a consortium that is called Imovia DGD, is built by some universities that participate in a francophone consortium we belong to that is called DGD. Some universities participated, around 5 universities, and we are also sharing our courses. And the students that participate in this program get a digital badge in intercultural competencies. Some challenges of this program, as I said, to develop an offering for international students, but also from international partners to our students. Also, the internal operational processes, as I said, many areas of the universities were involved because it was challenging. It wasn't just like doing it, but we had many operational processes to take into consideration to make it successful. And then how we could attract students to participate, not only international, but national, our universities at the university. These are some of the results. We had from incoming students, we had 127 international students enrolled in our virtual exchange program, 68% coming from Latin America, mainly from Chile, Peru, Ecuador, and Argentina. And approximately 91% of students were taking undergraduate courses from our virtual offering. For outgoing students, so our students going abroad, we had 128 students enrolled in these virtual courses. Countries from Latin America were the top 3 preferred destination for Rosario students, but also you can see in the map the countries to where our students, where the universities where our students took the courses belong to. These are some of our allies also. We also offered some short courses, and our students were able to participate in international short courses offered by our partner universities. This was also very interesting, different experience for them. It was virtual, so this could complement the virtual exchange offering we had for our students. And like to conclude, I would like to say that we definitely found out that this is a rich model for online international education, and it has contributed in a very important way to our international offering for internationalization. We would continue working with it. We have already online our offering for mobility for the next year, and we would have it physical and virtual mobility. It is now a new way, a new modality of our mobility at our university. It is also a meaningful contribution to internationalization at home, without, as I said, without moving, and to give students the opportunity to take to have these experiences without going abroad. And so also it is a strategy for inclusive internationalization. This goes in line to what I said before, is how students who normally, by different motives, but sometimes mainly economical, can go abroad, they can still have this important international experience and have the possibility to have this exchange of cultural, this cultural exchange with students from other countries in the world that we consider very important. And also we had this possibility to have a new approach, particular different approach with partners, and how we could find this different way of working together, and even deepening the relation with them, and that this could allow in the future to have new different projects going on together. So this was my presentation, and thank you.
Thank you, Professor Godoy. Thank you for your contribution to the panel. Very interesting presentation and also very specific about the experience of Universidad del Rosario. We have different questions from all the participants. So what I'm going to do is we have one question for all of you. We try to concentrate all the questions from the participants in one question. So we kindly ask you to answer, how do you evaluate intercultural experiences, global abilities in your curriculum? Are there any specific standardized rubrics, or were they made specifically for the courses, taking into account that physical mobility isn't happening at the present? So as you can see, the question is about evaluation of intercultural competences. Despite of the situation, as you know, most of the mobility, physical mobility, is also a tool to develop intercultural competences in the presence when the students travel and live and study in other countries. So can you please share your thoughts about this question? How do you evaluate intercultural competences in the virtual or blended mobility? Can we start with Professor Takahashi from Chiba University of Commerce, please?
It was something that was already mentioned by several of the speakers, but I think we have found that this virtual mobility is actually a plus in some ways, because it allowed some students who would be constrained by economical reasons that they would not be able to travel actually, and it might have and it offered these students a chance to have this international experience, and they would not have otherwise had. So that was a great plus, I think, that we can probably, even when we go back to normal, hopefully in the next year or two, we would like to continue, because it would it just opened up all sorts of possibilities for many of our students who would otherwise not have had because of financial reasons, not be able to have the international experience. And it, I think it was something that would not have occurred to us if it hadn't been for the pandemic. But now that we have this possibility, I think we would want to continue. So as an to go back to your original question, how do you evaluate it? I think definitely that is a plus. And although speakers have mentioned, I think there are some aspects of international experience that really cannot be really replicated or in a virtual situation. You really, really want, if possible, to be able to really travel and go to that country and have the real experience, and nothing can replace it, actually. But at the same time, I think we have seen all the possibilities of the virtual experience, and also the fact that it allows all these other students who probably would not have had the opportunity to experience the international experience, even if it's not real, virtual. That's better than not experiencing it at all. So yes, I think definitely this is one aspect that I think we have learned and I evaluate it very highly.
Thank you, Professor Takahashi. Stefan, can you also share your thoughts about this question? Your microphone is not working. Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much. So I don't know if the question is about how we evaluate that formally, or how we kind of what our assessment is personally. So if we answer, so the first question, I think the university and also the summer school changed their feedback forms according to the new situation. But to be honest, I was not involved in that process and cannot tell like the details and like the learnings out of that. Maybe I can, my personal assessment, if I interpret the questions in that way, as Yuri did, I can add to what Yuri said and maybe add just that, like working in international teams in different time zones and not having the opportunity like to sit next to each other, that is realistic, yeah, in professional life. So that's definitely something, yeah, adding realism to students' projects.
Excellent. That is true. It is, and it also a discussion in maybe a second language in different time zones and also in different cultural backgrounds. Thank you, Professor Stefan. Professor Nicole, can you also share your ideas, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you. So the 5 years that we did the in-person program at the University of New Mexico, which was a month long, we did a pre-survey and a post-survey that was meant to measure exactly questions around intercultural aptitude, ability, confidence. And so we have 5 years of statistics on that. For the 1 week online program, we did a post-survey, but not pre, because we were in fact also working with students who'd already gone through in-person programs. So we asked questions like, did they feel like the programming that was offered increased their confidence level to lead, to work in their community? Did they feel that they had, that the program had generated additional ability to navigate questions related to policy, for example, or other identity or leadership issues that these youth were working with and were interested in. So for the 1 week program, we did do a post-program survey that gave us lots of useful data. And generally speaking, the students felt that the week-long program had in fact enhanced their understanding and broadened their perspective and given them some new tools. But to answer the original question, we do a pre and post survey for the month-long program that historically was offered in person.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Dani. Professor Luisa Godoy, also, do you have any comment, any impressions about this question, please?
Thank you, Eric. Well, I would just like to say that at our university, the courses, the virtual exchange program was made up of courses, formal courses that belong to our formal course offering of the university. And so they have their own evaluation methods that are used by our university. Concerning like these multicultural or virtual intercultural competencies that you mentioned, in the ILOs, the objective learning goals of these courses, some of them evaluate how students can have can develop intercultural competences when participating in these courses that now have been taken to this virtual sphere we are talking about today. So we evaluate them as part of the courses as they are formal courses of the university.
Excellent. Okay, thank you for all your impressions and for sharing these ideas. We also have another second question for anyone who wants to answer it. It's from our colleague, Fitz from the University. He's asking that all your presentations added clearly to the issues, problems, and some solutions. One question for the future. Do you feel that low residency programs may be adopted by higher education institutions? Either virtual or on-site short study abroad periods or programs, maybe 4 to 6 weeks at the partner institution?
Eric, we weren't able to understand, at least myself. If you could repeat, please.
Yeah, our colleague George is asking if maybe in the future you feel that maybe some exchange programs may be adopted by the higher education institutions for less time, maybe 4 to 6 weeks at the partner institution, and it could be a virtual program or on-site program or even a blended program. Would this model works after the pandemics, or is just in the moment? And if it works, how should be different from the past? It is open for anyone who wants to share.
I think that the pandemic, one of the beauties of, the pandemic is that it has forces folks to shift gears and really open up means of collaboration and modes of collaboration that perhaps institutions felt hesitant to launch into. And so I believe that there will be a lot of additional opportunities to enhance in-person education abroad and study abroad opportunities with virtual opportunities. I know that in the past, some institutions have used virtual education options to do a pre-study abroad training, somewhat of a sort of initiation or introductory course to set students up for successful learning while they're abroad. And in some cases, there has been work done online to complement the work that students or experiences that they might have been doing abroad, particularly, question prompts or exercises that would encourage students to step outside of their comfort zone, to take on new perspectives, to perhaps engage in ways that they wouldn't otherwise. So I think that certainly for UNM, but I would say more generally speaking, that now that both students, instructors, and institutions have been introduced to these new modalities and have been sort of forced into new ways of thinking about how to collaborate with existing partners, that those experiences will inform what we do moving forward, and that they would only be used to enhance what we're already doing. At least at the University of New Mexico, to answer the question, we have various program lengths. We bring students in for traditional semester-long exchanges, and those are direct exchanges, but we also do short-term programs that sometimes are group-based or sponsored programs where students or professionals are coming in for a week to 4 weeks at a time. We've also worked with Friends of Fulbright, both in Mexico and in Argentina. Most recently, we're also now in collaboration with Friends of Fulbright in Colombia, where students come in for 4 to 6 weeks through a sponsored program, and that has happened in the spring, most recently for UNM last year. So I think that we're all learning to be more flexible, and we're all learning to stretch amidst the pandemic. And I suspect that those sort of new ways of learning and interacting will only enhance what we were doing traditionally with in-person exchanges and international learning.
Well, I would like to say that I think that, as Nicole was saying, this virtuality has allowed us to explore new different formats for our virtual programs. We've been having at Universidad del Rosario, apart from our normal exchange programs, some short courses in which we tried or we worked at looking for international students to get together and participate together with our students and have this exchange of experience, cultural experiences together, participating in these courses. As I said in my presentation, we are also developing these short courses in a virtual format. And we've been having some going on with the participation of students from different countries, from our partner universities. And we would like to continue having these new kind of programs, not only in a physical way, but also in a virtual way.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. This is the end of the panel. We, on behalf of the University of Guanajuato, we want to thank Professor Takahashi from Chiba University of Commerce, Professor Weyers from Fachhochschule Dortmund, Germany, Professor Tami from the University of New Mexico, and Professor Lisa Goday from Universidad del Rosario in Colombia. We really appreciate your contribution, your time invested, and also to have the opportunity to interact in this panel. The International Forum of the University is every year stronger because of your participation, because of our partner institutions. So we have some final words from our director of the International Office, Professor Elias Ledesma, who is going to share some words with you. Thank you. Thank you.
I just want to say thanks to Takahashi Sensei, Stefan, Nicole, Luisa, and of course, Eva and Eric. Thank you to be part of the virtual edition of the Forum of the University of Guanajuato. Thank you. And also, I want to invite you to our next conference. On that conference, we are going to have a keynote speaker from International Association of Universities, Giorgio Marinoni. So, thank you again.